In part 4 of the styles videos, we are going to continue talking about label styles. In the part 3 video, we discussed general label styles, point label styles, and surface label styles. In this video, we're going to start off with parcels and work our way through a few more of the options in the label style list. So parcel label styles are basically just line and curve labels. So if we go back to the general label styles, lines and curves, parcel labels are just these labels here, but dynamically linked to a parcel. Now, when I'm talking about parcel, you can think of the lot that your house is sitting on and is built on. So I have a quick polyline here, and I'm going to quickly turn it into a parcel. And as we see in this dialog box here, we can set up default label styles. So I'm going to use 2.5, parcel line label 2.5, and just 2.5 millimeter text. And I'm going to automatically add them in. Now be careful with this automatically adding. If you have parcels next to each other, it will duplicate the labels and just cause extra headaches. So I'm going to click OK, and let's turn this into a parcel, and we see a few different labels here. We have our area label here, we have a curve label here, and we have our line label here. Now, we don't actually display them this way, so let's start modifying them, and we'll do them one by one here. So under the area label styles, we'll take a quick edit on this. Now, this label is named off your parcel. So under parcel styles, if I change this, I'm just going to name 1. My lot has updated to be lot 1. So this label reads off your parcel styles name. So generally leave this name lot, and it will read off lot-1. If you make another one, it'll be lot-2, all the way to lot-800 if you have that. Now under the parcel area, I'm just going to right click on the existing one here and edit it, and we'll take a look at some of the options. So under the information tab, again, this is where you name things. The general tab, make sure your text style is set up, your layer is set up. So this is going to C-label-PARC for parcel. Under the layout tab, this is just where we set everything up. Now we only have one component in this, and it's the name. So the name of the parcel, and the area in square meters. So we're going to go into the ellipsis part here. And there's a few things we can add in. So the name and area we're already using. We can add in the description if we want. The perimeter. If we have an address on the parcel, we can add that in as well. The site name. Now, sites are something specific where it's almost like a bucket of items. You place some objects in a site and they interact with whatever else is on that site. And again, we'll get into some of the more detailed aspects of parcels and sites at a different time. And even a tax ID, we can set them up, but we only want name. And let's change it to uppercase. And our area. So parcel area in square meters. Now, precision, leave it to 2 decimal places, whatever your company likes. You can go to 1 or no decimal places. So it's already set for square meters. Let's just put a meter squared behind it. And if you hit apply, it will dynamically update on your screen here. Let's go make the word area uppercase, so it's all consistent. Now, when you use the apply button, if you're in the settings window, it will update on your screen. If you access these styles from another selection, so edit area selection label style, and you come in through this dialog box to edit it, when you change things, let's just go 15 and hit apply. It does not update on your screen because this dialog box is controlling it. So just keep that in mind if you want to see changes on the fly. Don't hit help. Change it in your settings tab over here, and then it will dynamically update. So there's only a few options for parcel areas that we can add in. not too many. Let's turn this border off on our parcel style here. So under the edit parcel styles, I'm just going to turn the fill off. It makes it a little bit cleaner. Now there's two lines or two labels attached to the outside of the parcel. So this is the parcel boundary. These will be your outer lot edges, either the left or right side of your house, the front or back. Depending on where you live, they can all be different. We'll start with line labels first. So under line labels, I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to choose the options I want to put in here instead of wrecking this old one. So name it whatever you're designing. I'm just going to leave it new parcel line label style. Under general, make sure your things are set up in here. Now these ones, we want them orientated to the object. So we want them to follow the line that they're attached to. And that doesn't matter which direction they're going. So they'll follow the line, they'll point the direction it's going. Under the layout tab, we have a few options in here. Table tags, so we can put them in a table, we can list them in a table. That's going to be a very long table if you have a lot of parcels. Make sure you're not in table tag when you're trying to edit things, as they won't update. You need to be in the actual item here where we're updating it. So direction arrow. Now, we don't need a direction arrow, so I'm just going to click the X and delete it. Under the bearing, so we generally don't show bearings, we show azimuths. So I'm going to change the name to azimuth. And again, it's updated up here. Visibility true. We'll leave all this default. We're going to come into the contents. Now under the comments tab, if we click on the expression that's already here, we have segment direction. This one's in degree, which we want dms.ss spaced. So it's degrees, minutes, seconds with a space in it. Measurement types and bearings. So we want to change that to azimuth. We want north azimuth. Precision, we want 1 second. So we don't want to go any more detailed than 1 second. Rounding, round normal. And the last thing I'm going to change is this DMS. So I don't want any spaces in there. So when you give me a label, get rid of all the spaces. Don't put anything in between the degrees, minutes, seconds. And again, you can change the units if you want, radians, grads, or degrees. We'll set it up like this, and then we'll click the over button. So remember to select the over button so it actually updates what you have over here. And as you see, it's changed quite a bit. So we'll click OK, and it's updated on the screen here. Now under distances, we'll just take a quick look at what's in here. We highlight it, segment length. It's in meters, precision 0.001, rounding normal, that's all good. We can leave it with those settings. Now if we want to label start northings and eastings, end northings and eastings, so say they wanted the X's and Y's, we could do that as well, but there's no need to show that on a line label showing distance and direction. So we've set our two options up here. Text height, set it to 2, 2.5, whatever company standard is. Now, as you see, only the distance has updated. You have to do the azimuth as well. So we'll 2.5 on text height and the azimuth as well. No point in putting a border or background mask. Now drag state, we do use the drag state of these labels, as some lines are only 1 or 2 meters long. We do pull them away. So make sure these are set up the same. So arrowhead size 2.5. If your text is 2.5, put your arrowhead at 2.5. And make sure to update the text height here to 2.5. So we have our distance and direction label. We're going to click OK. Now it's placed it in the line label style here. New parcel line label style, but it hasn't applied to anything on the plan. So we can quickly change these if we select them all. We'll select the 4 of them. Now if we go to right click properties, we can change the line label style to our new one. And if we zoom in, it's now updated to the label we just created, and everything's by layer, so it's reading off your label section layer. Now color, or I guess line thickness, according to your CTB file, does not have anything to do with text. If you have Arial or a true type font text, which we do, line thickness will not print. It's going to keep the text the same thickness no matter what. Now, if you're using a simple text like simplex, that will pick up your line weight thicknesses. So if you're using color white in, for example, my CTB file, it's 0.7 or 0.9 thickness. It prints really bold. So as long as you have a true type font, you don't need to worry about what color your objects are on. Now, if they are on a color that prints in color, so if you want something to actually print the color red, then, for example, in my template, I'd use color 10. That will print red. Color 1 will just print black. So no line thicknesses, no line weights, but color, it does take over. The second label that we're going to take a look at that goes along with parcels is our curve labels. Now we have curve labels in here. We're going to right click, we're going to make a new one, and I'm just going to leave it defaulting and name it descriptively. Set up your general tab, we're going to go into layout. Again, in the layout, the table tag is showing up here. So if you change anything in here, it's not going to modify anything over here. We're going to go to distance and radius. And as we see on the label that's already here, we have distance, length, and radius. Now, having your text side by side like this, it does not always fit. So I like to stack them 3 high. And as we saw by the general curve label, this is the exact same. So we'll do length, enter, radius, enter. And we'll add in the delta. So /u plus 0394 is equal to, we'll find segment delta angle, and we'll add it in. Now length, we want to 1 millimeter, radius, again we can go to 1 millimeter, and the delta angle. Now most radiuses within the city of Calgary will design to an actual whole number. So if we set this exactly to 1 precision, when we have an 18 meter curve radius, that's perfectly fine. Not very often we'll have anything that's over a 0.1 precision. So again, keep note of what you're designing. If you only need 1 decimal, only use 1 decimal. There's no point in having 3. So we'll click OK. So we've done length, radius, and the /u plus 0394. We'll click OK. And as we see in this label over here, it's updated. This is another label that we do apply drag state to. So we're going to go ahead and update text size to 2.5. And again, text height in our layout will set to 2.5 as well. So let's quickly take a look at the few other options we can add in. And again, these are pretty much the same as the line and curve label styles under general. So eastings and northings, directions, segment radius, which we have in there. The parcel curve numbers, so on your parcel table, each curve will have a number. We can add that in as well. So we can create a table instead of labeling it on the plan view. That's the bonus of that one. So we'll leave the 3 in here. We like those 3. We'll click OK. And again, I'll select them. And if I go into right-click label properties, it opens up our properties box again. We can change it to our new curve label style. So again, these ones are green. It's the 3 options we've set up, and it's the way we want them to look. Now say we want these on the other side of the line, we can right-click, or select it, right-click, flip. So I just hit the F key for flip. Select it, right-click, flip label. We can reverse the label so we can make it go the other direction, but on a curve label that doesn't make a difference. Where you'll see that difference is with a line label. So we like to show distance over bearing, or distance over direction. So always flip your label so the distance is on the top. So we'll go check the few other labels we have. That's distance over direction. We have distance over direction. And this is direction over distance, so we'll right-click flip. Now we're distance over direction. Now let me check these labels. Generally, we don't like to see an azimuth over 180 degrees. We want to keep it between 0 and 180. So to do that, we select it, right click, then we can reverse the label. And reversing the label just makes it point the other way on the line. So we went from 185 degrees down to 5 degrees. Check this one down here. We're going from 268.24.18 to 88.24.18. So try and keep your direction labels between 0 and 180 degrees. So quickly, that was parcel label styles. Let's get into some alignment label styles. Now there's a few more options here. There's quite a bit more information we can show. We're skipping grading because there are no grading labels. So under the alignment label styles tab, under label sets, we can set up default label sets. So when we create an alignment, it's going to put the labels that we selected on the alignment every time. So as a quick look, if I just right click the 50 and 100, so every 50 meters is going to put a major, every 10 meters is going to put a minor, and it's in the 1+000 station format, and it's putting it parallel to our alignment. So I'm just going to right click edit. Now this is a new dialog box. So this is where we can specify whatever labels we want to add to our alignment when we make it. So we can add major stations, minor stations. We already have those in here. That's our default labels. We can add geometry points. Now geometry points are where your alignment has a curve or a spiral. It will add in those stations and tell you what kind of information it is. Is it tangent to spiral? Is it spiral to curve? It will spit that out in the label. We can add in station equations or the design speed of our alignment. We can automatically add that to the alignment as well. Now, profile geometry points. So we can translate information from our profile that's designed off the alignment. So any vertical curves, crest and sags, we can translate that back to our alignment so it shows the horizontal and the vertical all in one place. We can add in super elevation critical points. So when you think of super elevation, think of it like a banked race car track, and that's all we're doing is banking the highway. Not to the same extent the race car track is banked, but it's still the same theory. And we can add in some critical points. So when I make my label sets, I just want these two to show up every time. I can add in everything else afterwards. So I'm just going to make a quick alignment. I'm going to create it from polyline. I'm going to reverse the direction. You name it test. So as you see down here, again, the layer is updated. Set up your automatic layers. We'll keep everything. We'll do 1+000 perpendicular. And I'm not going to add curves between tangents. So we'll click OK. And the default label style I've selected is 0+000 station format. Every 100 meters, give me a major station. And then every 25 meters, put a tick. So we can physically see what labels are attached to the alignment by selecting them. Right click, edit alignment labels. So these are the labels we actually have attached to our alignment currently. So we only have major and minor stations. Let's add in some geometry points. And we'll go 2.5. So remember to click the add key if you want to add them in. Now these are all the geometry points that can be added to our label. So this can show the alignment beginning, the alignment end. Do we have any tangents to tangents? Not usually. Curve midpoints, tangent to curves, curve to tangents, and a few more when we get into the spirals. So I'm going to leave everything selected. Again, we can choose not to select some of these. It's going to give us the rest of the labels. So I'll leave those selected. I'll click OK. And we can't add anything else in here at the moment. So when I click OK, we only have PIs right now, points of intersections. So that's why only those labels have shown up. So I'm going to quickly create a spiral curve on here. Edit alignment geometry, free spiral. I'm just going to pull some numbers and make them up here. We're going to go less than 180, 100, we'll do 50, we'll do 50. So I've quickly created a spiral curve, and as I've hit enter twice, we see that there's now a few more labels in here. Our alignment's moved. So the labels that automatically came in are our spiral labels. So if we take a look at them, at alignment labels, or sorry, our geometry points, the spiral information won't show up until we actually apply spiral to our alignment. So we have our tangent to spiral, spiral to curve, the midpoint of the curve, curve to spiral, back to spiral to tangent. And if we go to the very end of the alignment, there's the end of it, and we have a start label as well. So let's take a look at how these labels are built. Generally leave these ones alone. Now, the labels that we add into the label sets here are completely different. Or they're not different, they're built down below. So we have stations, station offsets, lines, curves, spirals, tangents, and point of intersections. And we can add all those into a label set. Pretty much the only label sets I have here are major and minor contours. I have some set up for geometry points, but it's not a whole bunch of every label. So let's take a quick look at the station labels. So major stations, and I'm just going to show you one, pretty much only one thing you add into it. So under the station text, we're just using station value. We can use raw stations, station equation IDs. We can add northings and eastings, design speeds, directions, or a few pieces of information from our actual alignment. So for stations, we're just going to use station value. And again, make sure your other options are set up. For the station marker, I just have it set up to use block name AECC tick circle. So if I come into the block editor or select the block, I can choose anything in here to be the marker for me. And this little round circle, that's the marker. So under major stations, basically that's it. We show the station, and that's all we show. There's no need to show really anything else. It's taken care of in other options. Under the minor stations, so if you remember, these ticks are my minor stations. That's all I'm showing. So under the tick only, again, general tab, set these options up. The layout, component name is just a tick, and I've used the tick. My block name is AECC tick line. So just a simple little block. We don't generally show minor station values. It's just a lot of labels all at once. Under our geometry points, so that's all these curve to spiral, mid spiral to curves, are perpendicular with tick line. So it has a little bit of a line, has our label at the end of the line sticking out. Geometry point and station. So in the contents, we're using the geometry point text. So it's picking up the geometry point. This will be their spiral to curve. And then we have a colon, and it's appending it with the station value. So there's a few other things we can add in here. Again, raw stations, northings, eastings, design speeds. Basically, under the geometry point, we only want to add in geometry point related information. Now I've got a line here as well. So that's this line from the circle here to the end of the piece of text. So from the end of our spiral to curve all the way there, this line is 30 millimeters long. If I make it 40, my piece of text is actually attached to the line. So if I go back to my geometry point and station, my attachment is the top right. If I go top left, that's the top right piece of the text. So I'm going to put it back to top right. And again, anchor component line, end. So 2 different places we can change the anchor component of that piece of text. And finally, there's a tick. So as you notice here as well, there's a little circle where that station actually is. And again, circle, tick. Don't add a new one. We can just name this back to circle if we want. The profile geometry points. Now this directly reads items off your profile. So the code and station, and again there's a line and a marker. The marker would be your tick. The line would be the same as this. I can't actually show them on here because I don't have a profile set up, but we'll just take a quick look at the contents that we can add. So we can add profile geometry point text and the station value. So this would be your vertical curves, your horizontal or crest and sag curves, not horizontal, that's alignment only. So this will read things off your profile and show them on your alignment. Design speeds, I'm not going to go into station equations, but our design speeds shows the station value, and we have design speed on the other side of the line. So if I zoom in here, design speed, station. Now if our alignment changes speeds, we can show that with a label. Generally when I'm designing a road, it's for 1 speed, residential subdivision 50 kilometers an hour. If you're designing a highway, usually somewhere between 80 and 100 kilometers an hour. We generally don't have design speed changes, but if you do, this is how you build it. Under the design speed equation, we just add in design speed. There could be design speed before, so that's the previous one to the new one if we want, but we're just showing speed and station. Now super elevation critical points, this is pretty similar to the alignment geometry points. So we have geometry point of station and align. Now I need to work on some of these. This one doesn't have the marker in here, the little tick, and that's easy enough to add in. And I'll do that afterwards, but under the contents, we're adding in super elevation critical point text. So this is where you begin your super elevation, midpoint of super elevation, end of super elevation, or fully super elevated. It reads those from your alignment and what station they're at. So there's a few other things we can pull in here. If we want cross slopes on our outside or inside pavements, the length, the region, normal lane width, or if we're adding a shoulder width, what percentage on tangent for the spiral, station values, equations, northings, eastings, design speeds. So a few more options we can add in, but we just want to keep it simple. We want beginning of full super with the station, level crown with the station, reverse crown with the station, end of normal crown with the station. So that's all we want it to show us. So let's attempt to add a little circle in here. We want a block, anchor component to the feature, to the station, block name. I'm just going to add in the AEC tick circle. What size do I want it? 2.5, 2, whatever. Name it circle. And then the line, we can choose to attach it to the circle if we want. And then your offsets need to be changed slightly. So what part of the circle? Middle center if we want. I believe the other ones are set like that. Yeah, middle center. Our super elevation label is now set for the same thing. So keeping things consistent. We're not going to do any critical points, and there's a few more label styles in here, so I'm just gonna hide the few we've looked at. There's station offset labels. So do we need to show something away from the alignment? So the label I have here is basically built The alignment, it tells you the name of the alignment, what station the offset appears at, what the actual offset distance is, and the northing and easting of the offset. So if we want to highlight something that's a little bit offset of our alignment, say 30 meters, we can put in a station offset label style and apply it to that offset. And again, that's all that's in here. Line labels, so length and bearing, or length and azimuth. So again, there's a table tag. Direction arrow we generally don't ever use, so I'm just going to delete it. We have bearings, or as I've said before, change these to north azimuths. And again, DMS without any spaces. And we're just going to go to 1 second. Generally, I don't show a distance azimuth label on my alignment, as that the alignment has the stations on it, so why do we need to show distances? We can also do curve labels. Under the curve labels for the alignments, again, same as the parcels, same as the curve labels under general. We're just going to go take a quick look at one here. And again, distance, length, and radius here. And if you're modifying again the table tag, so distance, radius, and delta, distance, radius, and delta. So D is the delta angle, again, backslash or /U plus 0.394. Again, keep things consistent. And then length and radius. So curves on alignment are generally longer than curves on a parcel, so having all these on the same line is okay, or even spaced the way it is here. And again, I'm just kind of going through these quickly, as generally the only labels I show on alignment: stations, major and minor, geometry points, and super elevation. So we can add in some spiral information, so the length, the station, and the A value between the spirals. Now all that comes from the highway design guidelines. And to show you the data that we can pull off, we can do length, so there's quite a bit in here. Curve groups, radiuses in, radiuses out, lengths, start stations, start eastings, northings, directions, spiral stations, radial points, alignment lengths. And again, if you want to see what these do, add them in and see what they look like, see what they do, see what they show. I don't have any actual spirals on this alignment, so I can't, if we added them in, they won't display anything. Tangent intersections, and again, let's quickly go into it. Some extended station information, and again, lots of information we can pull, and these are all for spirals, so spiral curves on a highway. And point of intersection, so this would be your PI label. So if we want to add that in, we can go add that one in. And as we see here, it's a lot of information. So let's quickly add that to the alignment. So we're going to select the alignment, right click, edit alignment labels. And what's it under again? I have a feeling, yeah, this is a totally separate label, so we have to go a different way. So we have to go under General, Add Labels, Alignment. We want a point of intersection. And we'll add it. So select the tangent in or the curve. So I want to add it to this curve, and it's added it in here. So it looks like it's giving me the station. So let's go take a look at the label style. So that's all this is set up for, is the extended station only. So let's change the style on that. and is not showing the point of intersection labels. Oh, they're up above point of intersection here. Okay, so I have to delete that and re-add in this one. So there's our PI information. We have our easting, we have our northing, and again they're all messed up, so we'll quickly edit it. So that's the 2mm one, yep. We'll just right click edit it. Actually, northing is first, so northing, easting, and we can get rid of the comma. What else is in here? Text for each curve or spiral, so it's showing curve index, the radius, the length, so we'll just go OK. Okay, so now we have northing and easting, our radius in, our radius out, and again, these are just made up numbers from when I quickly did that spiral. We'll be using proper numbers when we design it from the design guidelines for the highways. So that was just a few label styles. If we look under parcels and alignment label styles, we will have another video on profile label styles, profile view label styles, and then get into the pipe network label styles. So as we've seen three videos now on label styles, they are a very large part of Civil 3D, and having everything set up properly it's a ginormous task. There's thousands of label styles, and if you have multiples of them, easily turn into 2,000-3,000 label styles showing different pieces of information. So naming things descriptively, keeping things everything consistent. If you use the little circle, always use the little circle. If you use the tick, always use the tick.